I've known Wayne and Marty for a long time. Wayne was born and grew up in Toronto, a rare breed, methinks, where he trained as a mechanical engineer. Following university, he began working at Caterpillar in 1977 as a manufacturing process planner, and during the 1980s implemented a number of computer technologies to improve manufacturing efficiencies, including CNC machines, CAD/CAM, waste workstations, and factory network and computerized product testing. This was an exciting time as new affordable computer technologies allowed for what has been a traditional smokestack industry to begin transitioning to automated and high tech. Yes, and today, of course, we've got AI. In 1991, he moved to Connaught Labs in North Toronto as project manager in the Information Solutions Department, supporting infrastructure projects for key business initiatives. He worked on a diverse number of system technology projects, supporting bioinformatics, research and development, pharmacovigilance, and regulatory affairs. It's a big mouthful. And it's a big job, I'm sure. He had his first sailing experience in the early 1990s while on a Caribbean cruise, and had the opportunity to sail an America's Cup sailboat, the Canada II. He and his wife Marlene joined Mimico Cruising Club in 2004 and purchased their first sailboat, a CS-30. They began cruising Lake Ontario. In 2008, he joined the club race committee as crew and began helping out on Wednesday night club racing, learning how to manage club racing. He completed Ontario Sailing's Race Officer Club judge courses and also serves as Mimico's PHRF representative. From 2015 to 2017, he served as Mimico's fleet captain in charge of club racing. In 2018, he served on the planning committee that organized and executed Sail Canada's Ladies Keelboat Championship event in September of that year. 2022, the race to Kingston began with its inaugural year. Wayne was part of that team and learning out of that team. I beg your pardon, my eyes do something funny every now and again, and has served on the Race to Kingston Executive Committee ever since. He continues to serve on Mimico's Race Committee Executive, helping to organize and run the race club program. And I have to say, it has been a privilege and an honor to work with you, Wayne. You are a fine leader in that, and we look forward now to hearing all about how all of that happened. Please give Wayne a warm Shellback smell.
The big button goes forward.
Thanks, Diane. Can I move back at all, Graham? It's just, I'm blocking,
Here, you know what?
blocking a lot of people.
And you can. Oh, just.
I can't go any further. That's it. If I stand back here, and am I still in view? And
Oh, yeah.
I mean, good, okay. Yeah, that's what I figured. So, okay, I just want to make sure folks at the table can see everything here. And, okay, so I'm gonna tell a story today about,
You need to talk loud.
do I need to talk loud? This is the mic here, right?
No.
No?
Talk loud for the room.
Yeah, okay. Okay. So I'm gonna tell a little bit of the story of Mimico Cruising Club's racing program and how we built it. So I've got this title, If You Build It, They Will Come. And so Diane and I talked about this last summer about another Shellback's presentation. And I floated this idea, this tagline to her about it, and she kind of liked it. And I'll show you where I got it. This is basically, I'm gonna run a short video of one of our starts, and then I'll come back and tell you where we got this line presentation, this one. So. You got sound on that thing?
This is good. Got everyone in it.
15 seconds to red shape down, white shape up. 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Up and horn.
Okay. So we're only a few weeks away from doing that again, okay? It's been a long winter without doing that, so I wanted to show a short little video of one of our starts. And from the sound of the wind there in the microphone, it was definitely windier than it appeared on the water. So back to the title of the presentation, and it came from this movie. And this is 1989. Movie called Field of Dreams, starring Kevin Costner. And the tagline in the movie that kept coming up was this: if you build it, he will come. Kevin Costner was a corn farmer in Iowa, and he's walking through his cornfield, and he keeps hearing the phrase, if you build it, he will come. He keeps hearing this voice. And so he feels compelled to plow his cornfield down, build a baseball diamond for whoever's coming, and it turns out it's his father that's coming back. His father had passed away, and he passed away and they weren't on good terms, and he always felt bad about this, so he felt he had a chance to reconcile with his father. So anyway, but I like the tagline, if you build it, he will come. So, Mimico Cruising Club. Well, we got a tagline too over at Mimico, and it goes like this: where cruising is a tradition and racing is a passion. And it's interesting, on the research I did for this presentation, I found out that the racing started first and the cruising started second, even though the tagline seems to suggest otherwise. The racing started about 1980, and the cruising really didn't get up to speed until about the mid 80s, 85 or so. And that was kind of interesting. So early 70s. So Mimico, So Mimico is a young club by comparison to this club here at National that's got more than 100 years of history. Clubs like Queen City, other clubs like RCYC, an awful lot more history than us. We've been established since 1978. So how did it all happen? What really got going? And it started in the early 70s, and there was basically a landfill project just west of the Humber River. And word of this reached members at Toronto Humber Yacht Club, THYC, up on the river. Word of this got out. And evidently all this landfill that was done there is Humber Bay Park East and Humber Bay Park West. That was all lake before, because Lakeshore Boulevard, the lake literally started right there, and they filled it all in, got all this parkland. So there are a number of members over at THYC that had been dealing with size and depth limitations of their sailboats on the Humber River. And that makes a lot of sense, not to mention the bridges that they had to go under to get out to the lake. Now, back in this period in the 70s, big sailboats weren't that common. Boats were in the 25 to 27 foot range. 27 footers were huge boats at the time. So a lot of people had things like Sharks, CS 27, CNC 27s, etc. So initially the hope was to build an outpost facility for the larger boats at THYC at this location. That was the initial idea, the initial thought, desire. And this satellite project, this particular proposal of doing that was totally rejected by Metro, because anybody who currently had a lease with Metro people that, organizations that had leases with the city already, yacht clubs, et cetera, wouldn't be given another one to have a satellite location. So in a way, this was kind of a new, kind of actually a bonus, because it kind of laid the foundation for some new organizations to exist. And one being the Humber Bay Sailing Center, formerly Humber College. Another one being Etobicoke Yacht Club, who was previously over at Marie Curtis Park under another name. And they had to get out of there, so relocating to Humber Bay worked out well for them. They came up with a new name and they became a new tenant. And of course, Mimico Cruising Club. So landfill, this is kind of what it looked like initially over there at Humber Bay. And landfill is, I'll go to the next in a minute. You can see it's pretty ugly looking stuff. So if you go to Wikipedia and you Google landfill, a place to dispose of refuse and other waste material by burying it and covering it over with soil, especially as a method of filling in or extending usable land. Well, you got a whole lot more usable land with landfill that became Humber Bay Park. So it's interesting, when Mimico upgraded their docks electrical system again in 2016, it was absolutely amazing what we dug up when we retrenched to put in new electrical cables. And unbelievable, bits of sidewalk, bricks, manhole covers. Some of them were brand new looking. Steel cable, all kinds of other building materials. So if you wonder what happens to something when they demolish it, it goes into landfill. So that's the gist of it. So early days, circa 1978, they managed to secure the lease, but there was a real pioneering spirit amongst the early members, quite a rough and ready approach that got the club started. And there were a lot of hands-on efforts because they've only just begun. They don't have a lot of money that they've collected for membership. So installation of things had to be done by members. So purchased docks, they installed dock anchors and constructed a homemade barge to drop these anchors to hold those docks in place. And this was done by club members. And the original electrical installation on the dock was provided by members who were licensed electricians. So they worked out pretty good that way. But it was a real pioneering spirit. It was a real hands-on approach. Here's a picture of some of these anchor forms here. These cylindrical metal containers behind this lady are the actual forms that they poured the concrete into. And she's holding on to a couple of pieces of rebar there. And these form the loops that they attach the chains to hold the docks in place. And here's a shot of actually, I believe it's B dock from the look of it, the dock we're on. And in the foreground there, you can see the homemade barge, right there. This barge was made at one of the members. He had a small shop off of Kipling Avenue, I believe, and it was made over the winter one year. So that was that. Now, the one thing I haven't figured out yet or found out yet is how they got those anchors that they poured onto that barge. I haven't found that out yet. So that's still a bit of a mystery to us. So trenching for electrical cable to wire the docks up. Well, here are the trenches, and you can see some boats and docks in the background. And you can see some of that landfill that they dug up, even to do it the first time. Circa 1980, the docks are in for both Mimico on the left and Etobicoke on the right. And it's interesting here, even Etobicoke doesn't have a building yet. They don't have a clubhouse yet. That's roughly where the Etobicoke clubhouse would be, right there. So they don't have one either. Again, Etobicoke came from Marie Curtis Park from under another name. I think they were Etobicoke Power and Sail Club. I believe that was their previous name. And then they came here and called themselves Etobicoke Yacht Club. So that was an interesting time there around 1980. So. There's a story about a couple of lighthouses. And there were two lighthouses originally used to mark the shipping entrance to Toronto Harbor, through the Eastern Gap. And these dated back to the late 19th century, the 1800s. And they acquired these, and they were able to get them loaded onto a barge, put them through the harbor and out the Western Gap here behind us, and across Humber Bay to Etobicoke and Mimico, to Humber Basin. Here's a picture of the lighthouses. I believe this is when they're still in the Eastern Gap, and I think there's just on the left side of that picture is a lake freighter. So that's the condition they were in. There was someone who wanted to put the lighthouses out on the spit and use them for roosts for the birds. I think we're awfully lucky that didn't happen, that these lighthouses were brought over to Humber Bay for the clubs, and they were basically restored, and they're still there. So the smaller one went to Etobicoke Yacht Club, and it marks the entrance to their harbor. The larger one came to Mimico, and as I said, both lighthouses remain at the respective clubs today. And here's the one at Mimico, and it's right on the North Shore. This is about 1981. It was put there. They refurbished it on the outside, cleaned and insulated it on the inside, and it actually became Mimico's first permanent office, starting in about 1982. So if you wondered where we got the logo, the lighthouse logo, right here. There it is. Here's where we got the idea.
They used the word brains for our.
Did they? Okay. Oh, okay. Okay, so 1983, Mimico's been established as a club since 78. 1983, they get started on a clubhouse, and this is the early shots of the clubhouse with the wood framing going up. Prior to a clubhouse, there were a lot of porta potties and a lot of mud to navigate on the property to get to them. And there were stories of people having multiple pairs of shoes available because they got pretty muddy. So they had to change into clean, dry shoes. And then here's the clubhouse a little further along in the construction process. The landscaping hasn't been completed yet. Lots of building materials. One tree. I wonder if that tree is still the one in front. I'll bet it is. Yeah, I'll bet it is. Yeah. That was in the. I scanned these pictures, and I forget what it was. There was a graphic. Yeah. Yeah. I've got the book here, Judith. I scanned these pictures out of the book, so we'll open it later and we'll take a look, figure out what it is. So, yeah, there's a cookie there too. So this is the final product here. The MCC Clubhouse, and it was finished and opened in June of 1984. This picture was probably taken much later than that, with the trees and the gardens growing up and stuff like that. That's the tree on the left, perhaps. Yes. Yeah.
Are you going to be talking about how we got this built?
Yeah, make sure you repeat the question. So people.
Yeah, so the question is how we got this built, and I don't have the answer to that.
Would you like the answer?
Yes.
to that?
Please.
My understanding is that it was built by the Post and Beam Company,
Yeah,
and it was built as a model, so they could come and they could have people come and take a look at it. So we only paid for the materials.
oh, wow,
We did not pay for the construction, and it was $250.
wow, that's a bargain, that's an absolute bargain, even back then.
There's actually a plot
Yeah,
as you come up the stairs,
Yeah.
and I just noticed it for the first time last night,
yeah,
even though I've been there for 25 years,
Yeah.
30 years.
Yeah.
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 And you're right, it's the most.
yeah, there's a picture of the sign, that Post and Beam sign in the book as well.
Yes.
And I didn't think to include it, So let's get on to, what we really came to talk about today was the MCC racing story. And, so let's talk about that. So in the late seventies, Mimico attracted boats from a number of clubs in addition to THYC. And probably one of the more significant groups that came over to us were from the Boulevard Club. And their racers came over en masse to the new facility, which offered to them at the time real docks. Because they were on mooring balls.
That's why we went over there.
Yeah. So this was pretty good for them. So in 1980, the first MCC race committee meeting was held over at Toronto's Humber Yacht Club, THYC. And shortly after this meeting, racing at Mimico began using a boat called Hoot Owl. And I haven't been able to find a picture of Hoot Owl. I have no idea what Hoot Owl is. And that served as the first committee boat. And 4 people formed the initial on-the-water race committee aboard this boat with a significant amount of makeshift material equipment. And someone built a wooden crucifix with dime store pulleys and binder twine halyards, allowing signal flags to be raised and lowered, sometimes with a few issues. A shotgun using blank shells was used as a sound device. In an effort to save money, someone decided they'd reload these blank shells and found out that they were less than reliable and they didn't go off, and then someone would have to yell out, "Bang!" So at this time, from what I can see, it looks like the Mimico racing fleet averaged around about 20 boats. And that kind of makes sense in the early days. It really does. But 20 is a really good number if that is correct. So the race committee expanded over time. And in 1983, a fellow by the name of Doug Montrose, remember that last name, joined the team and served with other race committee members aboard Hoot Owl. 1983 he joined. In 1984, Doug must have been a real keener, because in 1984, he was asked to run the race committee for 1 year, just 1 year. And that 1 year ended in 1995. For those of you who served on race committees, this is not so uncommon an occurrence. You come on and say, well, I'll do it for a year or two. And then suddenly 15 years have gone by and you say, oh, how did I get here? Doug used his own boat at the time, a boat called Dempsey, for the race committee boat. And this was a CNC Red Wing 30. And there's a picture of a CNC Red Wing 30. This is the predecessor to the CNC 30 Mark I. And if you look at the lines on it, a lot of similarities. They built this from about 67 to around 72. They built about 150 of them, etc.
And it looks like Enter Harbor 28.
Yeah, it sort of does, doesn't it? Yeah, it's got similar lines. Yeah, similar lines. So,
He was across from us, when we were on Bravo 48.
yeah, that's right. That's right. Yeah. So try and imagine some of this, the early days of racing. So you got a race committee crew of 4 people working out of the cockpit of a CNC Red Wing 30 to start and manage a race. Activities include raising and lowering signal flags, timing, providing sounds with the shotgun, calling over earlies, recording the results on the finish. And here's another thing, rough seas. These people got pretty wet with waves crashing over the bow, which was being held down by an anchor in 110 feet of water. And the wash would come back across the deck and flow into the cockpit, etc. So, on wow, eh? So back to the old story, racers don't always understand or appreciate what their race committee does for them or endures on their behalf. And that's still going on, that still happens today.
Not quite the same way as that.
Not quite as bad as that, but I think there's times when I often feel that we're a little underappreciated as race committee.
Underpaid.
Definitely underpaid,
Oh, yeah.
definitely underpaid.
Get pretty crazy.
Yeah, so just, here's another shot of a Red Wing 30, cockpit. And actually, it's not a bad sized cockpit for a 30-footer back then, because a lot of 30-footers had a much more cramped cockpit. And having a tiller and not a wheel made it a little more spacious as well. But still, 4 people doing those activities is pretty demanding. So racing evolves at Mimico. Doug Montrose, after about a dozen years, decides he's had enough and retires. MCC acquires Tinker, a custom-built steel-hulled 32-foot trawler that was originally intended to ferry people and supplies to an island on Georgian Bay from the mainland. Tinker, later renamed the Sandy Grant, becomes the race committee boat, and it comes with ample interior and aft cockpit space for a larger race committee. It is still in use today. And there is what we call, the boat we know as the Sandy Grant, formerly Tinker, pretty much the way it was when it began. So racing kind of settles into Mimico, from about 1995 to 2015. The reason I picked that year is because that's when I was fleet captain. Began as fleet captain, Wednesday night racing, three race series each season, a spring series, a summer series, a fall series, followed by dinner back at the clubhouse, the famous Sailors Special Buffet Dinner, which is still in place today. 6 races per series, and we took the best 4 results that you had in each one of those series to determine the winners. Overall season winners were determined by the best 12 races throughout the season. So if you did really well in the spring, you could count all 6 and pick and choose what you needed out of the summer and fall to get your 12 best races. At the end of the season, an awards banquet is held up in the clubhouse. It was done in late September at the time. A special meal followed by trophy and flag awards. Still going on today. On a grander scale. So racing, how to make it better. And this is what I really want to get into. So the main objective was get more club members out racing on their boats. That was one of the objectives. Have more racing events that appeal to people. That's another thing that we'd like to do. Hold race-related information nights. Attract racers from other clubs to participate in your races. Elevating the racing profile of your club by hosting major racing events. Getting some big name sponsors to sponsor your racing program. We developed a dry sale program in the last couple of years. I'll talk about how that's helping, or how we hope it will help. And last, I say this isn't in any particular order. I say this one, have an annual practice night. We'll talk about that. And I saved that one to the end because I got a video that looks really good that goes with it. So getting more out for racing, the first item. Part of the problem is helping people overcome the fear of racing their own boats. And that is an inherent fear. So what we did was we started pairing prospective racers with some of the seasoned veteran racers. And we had a program that we ran on Monday nights. Racing happened on Wednesday nights, but we had a program starting on Mondays, Victoria Day. Started the first day in the classroom, and afternoon in the downstairs in the flag room at Mimico. As a classroom session, followed by 5 nights on the water with these mentors helping out the prospective racers get comfortable. And I think this program succeeded in increasing our racing fleet upwards of about 30 plus racers. So this is a couple of slides from the classroom session. The title slide. And there's a copy of the agenda, some of the things we talked about those Monday afternoons. Safety, be aware of everything, being on the lookout for everything around you. We talked about perf, why we had to have perf. What was perf? How did perf work? Racing. We talked about basic rules of racing, starting procedures. We talked about those, and we even coached them on some tactics once the race got started. So that was kind of the gist of what we talked about in the afternoon classroom sessions. Here's one of our mentors, mentorees, a lady by the name of Sandra Hughes, and she's going to go live. There you go. Fellow in the white cap there on board. So, have more racing events. Here's another thing that we hoped would kind of entice and improve racing. Feedback from the racers was that they'd love to see the season extended. They felt that finishing the season by mid-September was a little early. We still had a few weeks left. So we squeezed in 3 more races in Cold Frostbite Series, and we counted the best 2 of those 3 races to determine the winners of that. And we also, because we extended the racing season, we pushed the awards banquet out a few weeks and added a new trophy category for the Frostbite Series to the awards presentation. And then we did another thing. We added an end of season around the Marks race. Open to all boats, even the power boats. I'll explain that one. So the bottom line is we have a lot of racers that already have birth certificates. We got a few people that want to try this around the Cairns race. It's a 1 afternoon race on a Sunday. So we looked at their boats and we kind of approximated perf ratings because it was going to be a one-off. The power boaters, we put them on a separate start at the beginning. And the only fair way to do it was throw all their names in it. Told them to keep it down at 2,500 revs, go around the course, and threw all their names in a hat at the end. Pick 1, 2, 3 for first, second, third, regardless of how they finished. It's the only way to do it. Anyway, here's this is the Sunday afternoon following me around the cans, and this is Kathy and Brian Rudder, who won first place in their division. And, that was pretty good. That's a pretty good prize there. They got a bottle of Gosling's rum and a case of Gosling's ginger beer to make some dark and stormy. Okay, another thing, old race-related information nights, and we started this a few years back, mid-March. Everybody's starting to get a bit antsy. Right about now, holding a race rules seminar. So we came up with 4 or 5 infraction scenarios to get the racers to determine what rules have been broken in the racing rules of sailing. Making it a real test, a real good quiz. So here's a typical scenario. This is how we showed. This is one of the questions. We got a starting line situation there, and we got 2 boats coming up on the starting line, a windward boat and a leeward boat. And the leeward boat says, no room, don't go in there. He does anyway. The windward boat does anywhere. There's a collision between the boats, and there's a collision between the windward boat and the race committee boat. And they look at each other and yell protest at each other. So they protest. So, who's at fault? Part of the quiz. Well, I'm not going to get into all the yellow height there, but the bottom line is the leeward boat is penalized under Rule 14, failing to avoid contact and also changing course. So, as you can see over here, he had loads of room. He didn't have to be that tight. He could have moved over more to avoid contact, and he chose not. That's the gist of how we do it. More race-related information. That's about a month later, mid-April. People are out in the yards working on their boats, getting them ready for the season. We have an evening presentation with the sailors buffet meal set up, and we present the full season program to the racers. We give them all the dates, the layout of the season, how we're going to do it. So all our series races, our special EYC and MCC races that we have between the 2 clubs. We list all the all-men races, etc. And we also highlight any changes to perf ratings and rules for that particular year. any changes we make to the notice of race, the MOR, or the SIs as we come into that season. So everybody gets a nice briefing of what's coming. And this is the opening slide for this year's event, which hasn't happened yet. So you guys are getting a preview on the first slide. And here's the fall schedule. This is one of our presentations. This is part of the presentation. There's the 7 fall races, best of 5 now in the series. And then we have EYC runs a night race over to the island in the back. We have makeup races on Saturday the 6th. And then we're going to have our annual long men race on the 7th. And then the famous Around the Cans race on Sunday, the 14th. We've taken Frostbite, and Frostbite's gone from being a small series of 3 races to simply 1 race, because we wanted to load up more races into the series, spring, summer, fall. So now the Frostbite is a one-time only race, and we award the prize for that race the night of the Frostbite. And then the awards banquet on October 3rd. So that was just the fall series. Spring and summer were before that, just to give people an idea of what we talked about.
This is this year coming up.
This is this year coming up. So. Okay, so attracting races from other clubs to participate in your club races. I want to start off by saying the objective is not to pirate racers from other clubs. That's not what we're trying to do. We've always had an open door policy to racers from other clubs. And for a number of years, we've had people join us. But the objective was not to pirate people away from their own clubs. Our feeling was if we provided a quality race program, word gets out to the neighboring clubs. And they decide to participate. So we're back to the tagline, if you build it, they will come. So to date, we've had racers in our program from Boulevard Club, Humber Bay Sailing Center, next door to Tobico Yacht Club, and also over from Lakeshore Yacht Club. So we have quite a contingent with Lakeshore. They like coming over to race with us. In 2023, we peaked at 50 boats in our race fleets. And this was spread over 4 fleets, a flying sail fleet that I believe that year had 19 entrants, a large white sail, a mid-white sail, and a small white sail. And adding all those numbers up, we peaked at 50 registered boats. So I thought that was pretty good, quite a milestone. So attracting racers from other clubs, well, it presents some challenges. One of them is the post-race dinner back at the clubhouse. It was tough to get a seat. Now, thankfully, we've got a large balcony that surrounds the clubhouse with a lot of extra tables. And there were even people that took their dinners down to the flag room and sat down at the tables down there. So thankfully, we were able to handle it. But the awards banquet, that became a bigger challenge. Because all of a sudden you got 220 plus people wanting to come to the awards banquet. And by the way, Mimico dining room, the legal limit is 110 people in there. So we got about more than double what we can currently house in the clubhouse dining room. So the solution was hold it outside in a tent and get them to dress warm, which we did. In fact, this event has actually become so popular. We're even getting a lot of members who have nothing to do with racing, just wanted to come out and take the meal in and watch the award ceremony and see the videos we show and etc.
And there are so many people in that tent, you hardly have to listen.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah.
Big number of
Yeah.
bodies there, but
There's enough body heat that it's not too bad. Again, this is about mid-October, early to mid-October. So here we are. This is a shot outside the tent. This is our social hour. And we had a part of the deal where you got a part of your ticket price, which was about $30. You got 1 Stone Hooker beer, and you got 1 Gosling's dark and stormy drink as part of the deal. For $30 and a steak dinner. So, not a bad deal. So, oh, there's some familiar faces. This is, the ladies there in the foreground are all part of the race committee. So, anyway, there's like, see Diane and Laurel have dark and stormies in their heads.
Oh, yes. See what you said.
Okay, this one here, I wanted to include this picture because these guys are real characters. This is one of the boats in our flying sail fleet called Celia. It's a Par 39, big crew, a lot of spirit, and they always kind of get dressed up in some sort of a costume to do this. I remember joking with Mark here on the left saying, stay away from open flame with that polyester shirt. There's a shot inside the tent. That's only showing half the tent because we're standing about, this is about midway down the tent. It also goes the other way. There's another shot. That's the race committee right there. And remember I said, remember that name? Doug Montrose. Over the year, the Montrose Cup. So we haven't forgotten about Doug and all the work he did for the club. All right, so there we go. There's the top 3 winners in the flying sail division. So they get these custom flags provided by North Sails. These are all embroidered. These aren't printed flags. These aren't silkscreen printed flags. These are embroidered flags. These are beauties. And they all get a picture of their boat. An action picture of their boat as part of the prize. There's the cup right there in Ralph's hands. Okay, elevating the profile of your club by hosting major events. So a few things. In 2002, we hosted the Shark Worlds. In 2018, we hosted the Sail Canada's Women Keelboat Championship. And from 22 through 24, we ran the race to Kingston. So a little bit back on that. The 2002, the Shark World Cup Championship. Donna Scott was the chairperson at the time. 2018, Sail Canada's Women Keelboat Championship. That was done in September of 2018. Debbie Jeffcoat, chairperson. This is the race to Kingston, the inaugural year, 2022, Chris Bobick. 2023, we did it again. We had 2 people as co-chairpersons. Basically, it's too much for one. And last year, again, we ran it with Chris and Joe running the show. So, big name sponsors. So as I mentioned, North Sails provided those lovely embroidered flags to the first place winners on the overall, which was awfully nice of them. And they also come in and do some tech talks for us at least once a season, which is great as well. And then we've got Goslings and Stonehooker, who basically gave us, donated product that we could offer that great deal at the Sandwich Banquet. And in return, we feature these products in our dining room. We've got Stonehooker beer. We've got 2 or 3 Stonehooker beers on tap. Gosling's rum. We advertise dark and stormy drinks, and we're quite popular. Stonehooker beer. Ralph Noel, he's been here talking. It was quite interesting to hear the history of the Stonehookers and everything else. So those are our big name sponsors, and how we have such a great relationship with them. So, dry sailing facility. This is a fairly new one for us. Been done by a lot of other clubs as well. 2024, we acquired 5 international 420 dinghy racers that we used. We did some repair work on them, got them up to snuff and et cetera. And the purpose was to promote dinghy sailing / racing to both our sailing and social members. And one hope was that some of our social members would get a taste for sailing and take the leap and buy something bigger like a keelboat, and thereby become senior members. Try to get some new members into the club as well, that want to sail. The spin-off benefit from this was we did this on Thursday nights, and it turned out to be a competition between us and the Etobicoke, who had the same kind of boats. And it was kind of fun evidently. So one of our young members having fun with the 420. This is Larissa Signorowski. So she was one of the real keeners. She got an award for her participation in this. So, all right. Practice night. This is something we started doing post-pandemic. We do this before the first racing night, the first series night. And it's kind of getting people out there to kind of shake off the cobwebs, etc. You know, sort of get those rusty sailing skills tuned up a little bit before we start the series. The idea is we take them out there and we get them to do starts. So we basically get them started, tell them to go halfway up to the windward mark and turn around and come back and we'll start them again. And we do that for both the flying sail fleet and the white sail fleet. And then we return to the club for $5 pizza, discounted Stonehooker beer, and North Sales gives us a nice time. So this one's going to be May 5th, Monday, May 5th. Here's a start. This one we did. So that was Trevor Bobbitt, Chris Bobbitt's son. He did all that drone footage for that video, which is great. Drones have really made sailboat racing really good. They really good. So we're at the point now where questions.
Okay. I found that a very interesting. One, the history of evolution of the social activity. Just remarkable. And I have a really wicked question about like, what do you do in the winter? And is there ice boating in this area?
That's good. So the question is, regarding social activities at the club, what do we do in the winter? Is ice boating, something that's done? Unfortunately not, and I think the problem is that, the lake doesn't freeze well enough. Our inner harbor does, but I think it's a bit dodgy from time to time. And we've never really pursued anything like that. I think ice boating would be really cool. I've heard they go at warp speed. And
Way back when, we did have a presentation about ice boating out of Kingston. And so where it freezes more. And you could go back, I think it was recorded, wasn't it, Ron? Oh. Maybe we need to find them and have them come back again and talk about it.
Okay. That'd be an interesting thing. That really would be interesting.
How long do you think place?
Yeah, you need somewhere where you, yeah, you need somewhere that's not. The problem is Lake Ontario is deep, and it's hard to get a deep lake to freeze. Shallower lakes, the northern lakes are, Cottage Country lakes are a great example. They freeze, and my God, you can drive transport trucks across them. We're that good. And that's our big problem, is finding enough solid ice that's safe to be on.
It stays there.
Yeah, even Grenadier Pond here over at Hyde Park is pretty dodgy. The police often rope off sections telling people not to go on it. But anyway.
No,
Years ago, there were two very, very large ice boats that lived on the cottages, et cetera.
Okay,
They would raise the mud in the harbor.
yeah,
But
Okay, please repeat the question.
Fireboat, cleaned up the ice, so they had access all the way around. the
Yeah.
harbor. That's what it is, no more ice boat in the harbor.
okay, so this is a comment, and it was about ice boats that were owned by cottagers over on Toronto Island. And when the ice was thick enough, they would use them out in the harbor. But part of the problem there is that the length of time and where they could use them was often upset with the fireboat and probably the ferries that went back and forth as well. So that was just a comment. Anything else?
Is there any question or comment from those online? And welcome all of you.
Wait, is the Great Kingston, that's not happening this year, it's going to happen next year.
We don't know. Part of it was Kingston wanted a year off. They felt that they'd like to run it every other year, and we've had that thought too. We're not sure if we'll do it for 2026. We won't be doing it for 2025. It's a lot of work. So it's hard to say. It's really hard to say. One of the problems is taking a year off, getting your sponsors back is very difficult. So it's really hard to say whether or not we'll be doing the race to Kingston in 2026. We won't be doing it in 2025.
Yeah. So, Seamus,
Unmute yourself, Seamus.
Thank you, Skipper. Good day, everybody. Can you hear me?
yes,
Okay, thank you. I'd just like to compliment Captain Wayne Parker, I call him Captain Parker, for his presentation, and he certainly knows how to build up, contribute to building team spirit. And I like the idea of using your club to promote major events and to attract sailors from other clubs. And I noticed that, I didn't know this, that the dry sailing idea is to partially attract social members to take up sailing. And I wish every success with that program. And by the way, I was absolutely fascinated with the drone presentation of the sailing. And one last thing, can non-members buy a ticket for the October 3rd banquet? I'm rather attracted by the menu and the sponsored beer companies.
Okay, Amos, we didn't hear you too well. You were very faint, but that's okay. I'm going to try to repeat some of the points you made. You were pleased with and impressed with what we did organizing these things, these different events. And I think you mentioned something about the drone footage. And can non-members buy into the
October 3rd.
Foods banquet on October 3rd? That's a good question. I don't think we've had non-members. Have we done that? Yeah, well, reciprocal. Yeah, we can do reciprocal.
Okay.
Or you could have a host member.
Host member could bring you. Yes. Seamus,
Yeah,
a host member could bring you and I'll bring you.
Wayne, I remembered what I was saying. Wayne, can you hear me?
Yeah, just barely.
Yeah, I apologize. I've had problems with Mr. Rogers' neighborhood this morning, and I apologize because I have an iMac, which is excellent. but I'll just use one word. My compliments on you and your team and the club's marketing. I think it's marvelous, and not alone does it put your club on Lake Ontario in view of the global world, but it also puts Toronto in a very positive light. And thank you very, very much.
Okay, thank you very much, Seamus, for the compliments in the way we market ourselves and the things that we do. Okay.
Okay, I think we got a few more comments.
Do you have a shop?
Do we have a shark? We use, the question is, do we have a shark fleet at Mimico? And the answer is we did. And we had about 4 or 5 of them, and we actually had a shark division, but we just couldn't get enough of them to keep coming out. And I don't know, is there maybe 1 shark left right now in the dry sail area? That's about all we've got. We might have 1. I don't think in fact, I'm not even sure we have 1 anymore. So it's too bad because that's a fabulous fleet. And I love going down when we go across to Niagara on the lake. They got one whole dock full of sharks. I call it Shark Row, and it's really cool. Yeah, but unfortunately we don't anymore. So.
Okay, I mean, Ron.
Do you have a junior sail racing program or anything like that?
We've got this, the question is, do we have a junior sail racing program? What I showed there about the dry sail was our kind of our first year at it. We didn't want to take away from any kind of teaching that Etobicoke does with their junior sail program, because they've got a fabulous program over at Etobicoke. They've been running for years. In fact, a lot of MCC members sent their kids over to Etobicoke to be trained, and they had a great time doing it. We basically we haven't got anything quite like that yet, Ron. Early days still with this 420 program. But it's interesting the competition that got stirred up between us and Etobicoke on Thursday nights this past year. Graham.
When you found all that architectural or archaeological material, did you use anything like was any of it any good?
Not really. It's you know, it's when we were the question is when we did the trenching and uncovered a lot of that landfill material, was any of it usable? And quite frankly, no, it isn't. It's a lot of broken sidewalk and bits of brick. I mentioned manhole covers that look like if they were absolutely brand new. I don't know why they would have tossed those out. A lot of steel cabling, etc. None of it's really usable. The interesting thing is when we did this electrical refurbishment in 2016, all the landfill that we dug up had to stay on site. So we basically had to bury it again. We couldn't take it anywhere else. It had to stay on our site. So, but there we are.
Another one, Jim?
Jim?
I never got into racing, and my sailboat was a built here. So it was bloody small. And I was just wondering, is there a handicap system in sailboat racing?
Yes, there is, and that's what I referred when we referred to. Okay, the question is, Jim's question was, he's never got into racing, and his sailboat is kind of slow. And is there a handicap system that he could benefit from to race his boat? I'm going to paraphrase that a bit. And the answer is yes. There is an organization called PHRF, PHRF, and Performance Handicap Racing Federation. That's what PHRF means. And we handicap boats. And that's the idea with club racing, is that we handicap boats based on the design of them and their sail area, etc. And it kind of levels the playing field so that you can have a lot of different boats racing together in a fleet and kind of equalize it so that everybody's got a fair chance. So there is, yes, there is. It's called PHRF. And we are PHRF Lake Ontario here. We have about 1,600 certificates that are issued every year. I think we're one of the largest PHRF organizations in North America. It's a North American organization.
So somebody who comes in first in a race.
Yeah.
May not actually win the race, depending on.
It's, I could do another one on that, actually, but that's exactly it. First place finish across the line doesn't guarantee you first place corrected time. So what it is the time you elapse during the race, it's basically factored with your perf rating to determine your corrected elapsed time. And that determines who wins. So, yeah.
Yeah, and Wayne, by the way, is the one that does all the reporting and makes sure that everybody is appropriately reported. And,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that still, you still get debates about, well, my perf rating, I don't think my perf rating's fair. And I don't think this, and I think so-and-so's got too advantageous of a perf rating. We get all of that, we still get lots of that, so. Anyway, it helps, but it doesn't solve all of that.
Yeah. Any other comments or questions? Yes, Sherry.
I'm just commenting. Sorry. I did race committee at this club for about 4 years. And I was also racing during the week as well. And it was just a wonderful, splendid time. I was with 2 friends and it was just delightful. And you learned so much when you were doing it.
Yeah, I would agree with that, Sherry. 100%.
Yeah,
100%.
okay.
Well, Wayne, as usual, you've done an amazing job. He does this job at the club every Wednesday where he clarifies and shows what happened. And I learned a lot myself today, so I fully appreciate that. Do we have another comment or question here? No? So Wayne,
Yeah, just a minute, Patrick's got his hand up.
okay, Patrick.
Just a minute. While I unmute him. I'll request to. Okay.
Thank
yeah.
you. Yeah, go ahead. Okay, Wayne, I want to congratulate you on a really very interesting presentation. I know it entails a lot of work, but it's great for everybody. 2 little questions. I was quite interested to know that you bought 5 of these 420s. Does that mean you'll be able to find anywhere on the club shore to have a launch ramp like they do at Etobicoke? Or do you do them with the crane?
Okay, Patrick's question is in regards to the 420 sailboats. And how do we launch them? Do we have a ramp or do we use a crane? Well, we actually installed a ramp over on the pad. And you know where that is, over by the crane pad there, Patrick. You know
Oh,
where that
okay.
is?
Oh, good.
We have a launch ramp specifically for these 420s. And you're not allowed to back a vehicle down those ramps because they won't take the load. But that's how we're doing it on their small trailers.
Good. That sounds great. The second point was there was a quick mention of the 2002 Shark Worlds, which I remember. It was extremely well done at the time. Do you happen to know if there is any video of that regatta? The Shark World?
Yeah, okay, regarding the Patrick's question for everybody's benefit here. And I'm just reading it off the screen because it's transcribing what he's saying. And in regards to the 2002 Shark Worlds, and is there any known video of them? I honestly don't know, but you know something, Patrick, I'm gonna Google that on YouTube and see if anything comes up.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay, Patrick, take care.
Anything else? Well, Wayne,
Okay.
I want to thank you.
All right,
Our little token of appreciation.
all right, thank
That
you.
was an amazing presentation as usual. You did, Justin. And so,
Okay,
so nice round.
thank you
of
very much.
applause.